What is this?
Yes.
This one? This
Yes.
one.
Hi, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as our ceremony will begin shortly. I would like to request everyone to please turn off your smart devices or handphones, or at least put them on silent mode. And for our audiences online, you'll be put on mute mode. So if you have any questions, kindly type them into the chat box. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Angela Go, and this is,
I'm Dr. Andrea Go.
and we'll be your MCs for today. Please make yourself comfortable as we begin this session shortly. Firstly, we would like to bid a warm welcome to Prof. Dr. Vishna Devi Nadaraja, our Pro Vice Chancellor, Honoraida Yusuf, our Registrar, Prof. Dr. Azlina Ami Abbas, our keynote speaker, our Alumni Association committee members, fellow alumni, fellow colleagues, and students as well.
Thank you all for joining us today for day 2 of our IMU Alumni Conference. We are confident that after yesterday's dynamic sessions, we'll be able to tread on the same ground. Today, we will be rounding off the Alumni Conference with the teaching and learning session. It is our honor to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Prof. Dr. Azlina Amir Abbas. She graduated from the medicine program in 1998 and is currently a consultant orthopedic surgeon in the University of Malaya. She's also the first recipient of the Alumni Award this year during University Day. We would now like to invite Prof. Dr. Azlina Amir Abbas to give a keynote speech.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thanks to Dr. Goes for a kind introduction. But more importantly, also thanks to IMU and the alumni office for inviting me to give this talk. And it's, I think, meant to share my experiences throughout my medical career from the time, I guess, when I was an undergraduate here in IMU to where I am now. And truth be told, when they first asked me to give this talk, I was like, what is the exact title? They just say keynote speech. So I wasn't really sure. But the guidance they provided, which is please try and keep to the theme of the conference, focus on teaching and learning, community service, as well as nurturing leadership. That got me thinking about how all three are kind of linked to each other. And that then got me thinking about the Hippocratic Oath. Hence the title of this talk. So the Hippocratic Oath, as you know, is an oath that all medical graduates take at the completion of their training, the basic undergrad training. You know, it started out in ancient Greece. It's gone through so many permutations and changes over the years. Different countries, different institutions adopt the oath and amend it according to their needs and suitabilities. But the essence of the oath still remains. So this is a copy of what medical graduates recite. I'm sure IMU will have a similar kind of oath taking ceremonies. Different universities call it differently. When I was in in Memorial University of Newfoundland, they called it the shingles night. Not shingles as in the disease, but it's shingles as in the roof shingles. Because what they do is on that night, you put on your white coat, they give you a plaque with your name, and that's the shingle, with your name that says Azlina Abbas, A. Abbas, MD. And that's the first time you see it at the end. And it usually happens the night before the graduation ceremony. So that night we recite the oath. Similarly, in we have a similar ceremony. They don't call it shingles, of course, but it's again an occasion to bring in family, to get everyone to go like, wow, the journey is really coming to an end, to see it moving forward. But with all its permutations and versions, the essence of the oath still remains, and that's really to pledge a commitment to caring and treating the sick specifically and humanity in general. To accord respect to all who we encounter, whether it's our patients, our colleagues, our peers, our juniors, and treat everyone with dignity and without bias. To share our knowledge, skills, and wisdom to ensure better patient care and for the advancement of healthcare in general, while also continually improving our own knowledge and skills. So it's not just, I spout stuff at you and teach you, but I need to better myself so that I can achieve these aims of treating others better. We need to guide and mentor our juniors, and of course, to always act ethically, honestly, honorably, and with integrity at all times. So as you can see, aside from highlighting what it means to be a good doctor, most of the qualities described in the oath is actually qualities expected of a good leader. And hence, although the oath itself never says, I will be a good leader, the qualities espoused in the oath itself, if you really take it to heart, will help you in your journey to become a leader, whether you realize it or not. Some background history. Mikwan will know this very clearly, I think. So I joined IMU first batch, as they called it, the guinea pig batch, 193. In November 1993, there were about 44 of us, I think, in the batch. So I had come off A-levels a year earlier. And while waiting to go here, there, everywhere, etc., my dad said, well, we tried to strike a compromise. I wanted to go overseas where all my friends were. My dad wanted me to stay home because, financially it was more viable. And he goes, well, okay, let's have a compromise. There's this new college. Why don't you sign on to that? Go register. You spend 2 years here and you spend 3 years overseas. Compromise sealed. Okay. And when I went for my interview, the one who interviewed me was Prof. Ong Kok Hai. And I will remember this always because it really made me feel that who I was really, really important. As I grew up, a lot of people, I'm not sure whether you are familiar with who my father is, but in the education circles, I think he is quite known. And as I went through my journey from, can you imagine, from secondary school, so people go, oh, I know your dad. So you always have this feeling that you're living in his shadow all the time. But with my interview with Prof. Ong, what really struck at the end of the interview is, okay, Azlina, we'll take you in. And I'm not taking you in because of your father. I'm taking you in because of you. You fulfill, you have qualities that I see would be an asset to IMU, would be an asset to our profession. And that's why I'm taking you in. It's not of your name or your family or whatever it is. And that to me as a student at that stage, I was probably, I think, 20, 21. That was really strong, right? As we grow up, we always are told, you are who your parents are. You live in their shadow. But this was the first time that I was told, you are you and you deserve to be here. And that was really important to me. So I finished my medical school training in Memorial University of Newfoundland. It's not Newfoundland, Newfoundland. In 1998, I transferred in 1996. And I began my medical career in University Malaya Medical Center as a house officer at the end of 1998. At that time, housemanship was only a year, but cheeky me wants to stay in KL some more. Said, okay, I'll purposely asked for the extension of 6 months. There was that option at that time for us to extend to an extra 6 months to do 2 other postings. So my first 3 postings were medical, surgery, and ONG. ONG is compulsory, I think, even now. So the 2 additional ones that I took, that I opted to stay in as a house officer and not be a medical officer and upgrade myself, was pediatrics and orthopedics. I had never wanted to do orthopedics when I was a medical student, because when I was in my clinical school, I hated the orthopedic surgeon there. It was not a very good experience, let's put it this way. And I'm sure for all of us who were students once, you realize that what you like, your interests and all that, sometimes is shaped by who you encounter during your medical journey, your training. So that time I was like, no way I'm going to do ortho. Never. I want to do general surgery. But once I started working UM and as a house officer, my thoughts changed, my experiences changed. You get exposed to different kinds of people, and at the end of it, I said, no way am I going to do general surgery. I wanted to do ONG, but throughout that extra 6 months and where I was in ortho allowed me to do a lot more things, gave me a wider picture of what my future could look like. And that's when I made the switch. So moral of the story, never say never. And I realized that in my life, every time I say never is when I actually will end up doing it. So I'm very mindful now to say, oh, I never want this. I never want that. I just, go with the flow. So I've been I joined UM as a trainee lecturer in 2001 and joined the master's program in 2001, completed it in 2005. So qualified orthopedic surgeon now since 2005, so that would make me 17 years thereabouts. Coming up to 18. There are not many female orthopedic surgeons in Malaysia. About 10 to 15% of orthopedic surgeons in Malaysia are ladies. In our batch, we had 3 out of 13. So that was considered pretty big at that time. Okay. Over the years, I've had the honor of teaching and guiding or mentoring undergraduate, postgraduate, and clinical students and trainees. So, and I've also had the opportunity to head my department, head national organizations, be part of various committees, whether nationally or internationally. My career in medicine, I guess it's now for 24 years. My maths is pretty bad, 1998 until now, that's quite a long time. It's has not been very easy, and but I would like to at least hope that with this talk I will be able to show you that not having a smooth journey sometimes is a blessing in disguise, and we should take it as it goes. Okay, so they asked me to talk about what are the current trends in teaching and learning, and as an academic I get to meet all sorts of students. Whether they are undergraduate, postgraduate, research students, all of various backgrounds and diverse experiences, abilities and interests. And there are a few things that I noticed that some students have challenges with. And over the years, the profile of our students actually changed, as have the way we are taught. So the first big change I think that I would highlight is how our medical school curricula are developed. And even now, postgraduate clinical teaching is also, the curricula is being developed in such a way that we want to have more standardization. I was involved in a group which we try to create a national postgraduate curriculum for our individual specialties. And the idea is not because everyone must toe the line, but we need to have a set of minimal standards that everyone must be able to achieve, so that you can say, yes, this is a competent and safe doctor to practice. So some of the advances and trends that I see in curriculum development is early exposure to patients and clinical settings. All of those in IMU will argue, well, this is not new. We've been doing it since 1993. What you're talking about, But actually, it's not new to IMU, but it is relatively new to a lot of universities here in Malaysia, at least. In we only changed our curricula to mirror this or to reflect this probably in 2013 or 2014. Prior to that, it was still the traditional 1 year anatomy, 1 year physiology, pathology, and you only really get to see or meet patients or understand what physical examination is about only in your clinical years. So that has changed. So currently, aside from that change in how we teach students or early exposure to clinical experiences, students are also expected to be more proactive in their teaching and learning, right? There's a lot more self-directed learning that they have to do. Again, something not new to IMU, but it again, for a lot of university students, they struggle through this. Part of the learning process is also being able to reflect on what you have seen, done, and heard, and all that. And again, that's not something we are normally taught, especially in our secondary education as part of our early years of education. To supplement all these changes in curriculum development, a lot of institutions also adopt hands-on practicals. There are a lot more simulation type of exercises using mannequins, using virtual reality, role playing. Again, nothing new in IMU. I remember our clinical skills teaching in the days before where, we had to mock play. One is the patient and one is the doctor, and you have to interview and you're being recorded, and then you review your recording so that you know where you did well and what you could improve on. So that's not new to me, but it's new to a lot of, again, medical students and institutions in Malaysia. We are also, everything is digital now, from books to references and journals. Gone are the days, well, almost gone are the days where people actually need to go to the library to look up a book, or it'll take you a couple of weeks for the librarian to get you a text or an article. Now I just email the librarian in and although it says that it takes 24 hours or 48 hours, by the end of the day I get that article that I was looking for. Things are so much faster, so much easier to access nowadays. So information is really at your fingertips, not like before where you kind of go like, how did you survive without the internet? I get that a lot of my students don't understand what we're talking about when we talk about things like the jokes you see online when you hear the sound when the internet connects over the phone. Most of you don't know that now. you don't get all that now. Things like the platforms, what it looked like before and what it looks like now are vastly different. Okay, so and of late, I think there is a role of social media in disseminating information, teaching videos and all that, rightly or wrongly, right? So again, if we don't teach our students well how to discriminate between correct information and incorrect information, it's very easy to get the wrong message across. And we see it in all sorts of WhatsApp messages that we get online. Usually I get those from my father and my mother, because whatever is in WhatsApp must be true because it's printed. So it's a different way of thinking. And I think for our junior colleagues, if you don't understand that not everything you read is true, it's very easy to get led astray. So what are some of the challenges then with all these changes that's happening? What are some of the challenges? And for me, the biggest thing that I notice is that a lot of our students, I'm talking just mainly about medical students, whether it is undergraduate, postgraduate, is very inexperienced with adult learning skills, right? We are taught from primary and secondary school, whatever teacher says, don't question, right? Whatever the teacher writes on the board is the truth and nothing but the truth, and you shall not dispute. All right, and you must memorize every fact that you see. You get sent to tuition class, because in tuition class is when they give you the exam bank and they tell you these are the exam questions that will leak. Memorize the model answer and you'll be all right. You can pass all of your exams. Easy. And it's not to say it's completely wrong for our parents to push us in that direction, because they want the best of it for us, right? They want us to do well so that we are able to go to prestigious places of learning, to get scholarships, to have better opportunities. But when you are too much into that and you think that that's the only way to learn, you will find it difficult to cope in a university or tertiary level education system, where in adult learning, you're expected to do your own reading. You're expected to be able to question certain facts or question your teachers, not in a rude or demeaning way, but you should be able to address all this. So there's a lot of spoon feeding, even in postgraduate level. You'd be surprised. A lot of my master's trainees still rely on memorization of facts rather than trying to understand concepts and principles. Memorizing will get you so far. If you have photographic memory, then you got no problem lah. But the rest of us don't. And I find that, at least for me, understanding concepts is actually more important. And I think in medicine, with all the advances, if you just memorize the fact and things change, then that's when you start to go helter-skelter because you get lost. But if you understand concepts and principles, in most instances, even if there are advances in what we understand, but you know your basics in your concepts and principles, you'll be able to apply that and understand why these changes are happening. Okay. I find that students nowadays also don't like failing. They don't know how to fail. They feel failure means I'm bad, I'm stupid, I'm useless. It's associated with humiliation. You lose your friends sometimes. You definitely lose your confidence if you fall down often enough. And it's really because going back to where we were in primary, secondary school, everything is tailored for you to succeed, but no one tells you it's okay to stumble and fall. The stumbling and falling teaches you a lesson. The lesson is how to pick yourself up and learn from your mistakes and move forward. If you don't develop that skill early on, when you fail the first time in your life ever as an adult, it is quite catastrophic. I've had a master's student recently who did not get through his exit exam, and he was very upset. Not upset, angry, but he was just upset. He said the same things. I'm so stupid. I let down my family. I've never failed before, Prof. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to cope. Right? Imagine as a 30-year-old saying that you don't know how to cope, and you got the rest of your life to look ahead, and you know that life is such that there are going to be all these ups and downs. So although, I mean, in a nice way, I kind of told him there's always a first time for everything. You kind of need to pick yourself up, learn your lessons and move on. But ideally, when we are younger, I hope this resilience we develop actually when we are younger rather than when you're older. As you heard before, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to understand this, especially once you thought, wow, I'm okay, well, I'm really smart, I got through everything, no problem and all that, and what's wrong with me? That doubt when you have as an adult is actually sometimes very challenging, very upsetting. We've also heard a common saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And in a lot of students, they think that if they read a little bit, wow, I know a lot. I know everything there is to know about this topic. I Googled it already. I already read this one reference about this topic. I know everything, that's it, okay. And it's reinforced by the fact that if you pass your exams based on that little bit of information, you're going to see, I knew it already. But the reality in life is that, that it's very easy to get lulled into this false sense of security of knowing very little and having very high confidence. And this is what's reflected in this Dunning-Kruger effect curve. So when you know very little and you think you're the best at it, you're the expert, actually that's the most dangerous time, because actually you don't know very much. A lot of people want to stop there because it makes them feel comfortable. They don't like to be pushed and challenged to say that actually maybe I don't really know all the facts. I need to go and find out more. And in this graph, what it shows that if you stop at the top, actually, and you feel very confident, your knowledge level is not a lot, and actually you're pretty dangerous. You're probably not very safe to go treat patients. But if you take the effort to read more, to understand more, your confidence take a dip, yes, but your knowledge level keeps going up. And the more you know, after a while, you realize, hey, actually, it's not that bad, right? And that's when the curve starts to go up again. It's not that bad. I now understand better. I know what are the pros and cons, advantages or disadvantages of, this treatment versus that treatment. And therefore, your knowledge picks up, your confidence picks up, and that's when you're able to then give back to your patients a more meaningful treatment regime, for example, and be able to help others even more. So guiding our trainees and students through their confidence starts to take a dip is actually as educators, all right, as not only educators, actually, even all doctors, and I'll talk to you about that. So what is exactly meant by adult learning skills is based on the theory developed by Malcolm Knowles in 1968. It has some basic assumptions when it comes to learning as an adult versus learning as a child. All right, one of which is the self-concept. So as we grow older, we shift from being very dependent to independent learners. We learn because we want to learn, not because we have to learn. All right. they tend to be a more self-directed learning rather than the teacher tell you to do, and then that's all you read and nothing else. You have to be quite proactive, like I said. The adult learner experience shows that adults use experiences in their life to learn and progress forward. So again, that stumbling and falling gives you this experience, and after that you learn from your mistakes. In fact, the best adult learner is probably learning from other people's mistakes, and that's what I learned when I was in masters. We present x-rays about good and bad outcomes of patients, not to shame or other people who have made the mistakes, but it's so that for the rest of us we learn from that person's mistake so that we don't repeat that mistake. So learning from past experiences. Adults should want to learn, not have to learn, right? So you must want to learn. And as adults, we are learning things that we want, that we find applicable to our day-to-day work or interests, right? You learn knitting because you want to learn knitting, not because somebody else tell you better learn knitting or else, right? It's because you want it, all right? And the motivation to learn as an adult is because you want to improve yourself, you want to improve your profession, you want to move up in your job. As a child, you learn because kalau tak, your parents will rotan you if you come back with red marks. Your teachers will, look down on you. Your friends will look down. Your motivation is slightly different, but as an adult, it's for yourself and it's for how you can give back to others. So that is more on the student trainee aspect, but teachers are not perfect either. There are some challenges too. And in medicine, a teacher in this context is not just your lecturer, your supervisor, etc., but it's any doctor that you meet, because as per the Hippocratic Oath and as per the MMC Good Medical Practice Guidelines, one of the responsibilities of all doctors is to guide and teach our junior colleagues. Right? Not just, I'm just a super consultant, you just do whatever I say. You are supposed to teach people. All right. So some of the challenges from the teacher trainer point of view is, of course, some trainers just not interested in teaching. Of course, it's different when you're in an academic background, because you're there because you wanted to teach. But in a lot of hospitals nationwide, whether it's in government or in private, there are some trainers that say it's not my job to teach. But actually it is sort of written in very fine print, but it is, right? And sometimes whether you realize it or not, you are teaching, because whatever you show, people emulate. They see, oh, that behavior looks all right. So that's you teaching, indirect teaching to your juniors. So that's important. A lot of teacher trainers are not really trained to teach, especially trained to teach adult learners, or trained to teach even students to move from childlike learning to adult learning skills. But thankfully, there are a lot of courses that can help guide you on this. Some people find it very difficult to make time to teach, and that's especially true if you work in a busy hospital practice. It's different again in a university setting because there is dedicated time to teach. But if you're a clinician in a hospital, not in a formal role of a teacher, you may find it a bit difficult to balance your clinical service time and your teaching time. And of course, as teachers and trainers, just like students and trainees, you always have some favorites. The teacher's pet, and there's always this expectation that teacher's pet gets more information and shared, taught even closely, and then the one that you don't like, you kind of brush off and go run off on your own. So as I reflect on all those years as a student, for me, I realized that there have been a lot of people who have taught me good and bad skills, and I learned from those. I'm not ashamed to admit that when I was in IMU, I did struggle. For those, I think, again, like I said, Mei-Kwan and all that will know, I failed almost every semester exam before transferring to my partner medical school. I think 4 semesters in a row at one time. Only to pass it 2 weeks later, and the pass also is like not pass suddenly 90%, it's like just barely make it, and even my ability to transfer was in jeopardy because that last semester, it depends on whether you make it or not, and I was the last one to fly out to my partner university because I needed to pass that last exam. My confidence did take a hit. Same thing, as I said, I felt, what's wrong with me? Is I study the way I normally study. What's wrong with me? Why is it other people can get it, I don't get it? So there must be something wrong with me. You learn a lot when you struggle, when you fail. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about people around you. You learn, for example, who your friends really are, who are there to really help you, who your teachers, how much they care for you or not. You kind of, pick up that vibe. No one actually tells you, no, I don't want to teach you anymore because you're stupid. No, nobody says that, but you pick up the vibe of who is more supportive and who is not. So as I said, over the years, with that, I pick up on the good ways of going about things. I learn from other people's mistakes. So how the bad ways, is not like I never want to follow that, but I take it beyond that. I never want to follow that. So what can I do to change it, to be different? And that's what my take-home message is. All right. So I think all of that kind of helped me be a better teacher. I hope and think you have to ask my students whether it has really helped. So how do you overcome some of these challenges? And certainly as teachers and trainers, we should play a bigger role in guiding our junior colleagues. All right. We need to be positive role models. I don't say role models only because I realize that a role model can be a good role model or bad role model. So I'm talking about positive, good role model. You need to be to show qualities that you expect others to have. All right. Don't misbehave and say, no, don't be like me, because indirectly people will learn, well, you tell me not to be like you, but you are like that, so must be okay because you're a consultant now, right? So you need to be the person that you claim to be, and be the change that, as Gandhi said, be the change that you want others to be, okay? We should help our junior colleagues gain independence in their medical career. So no more spoon feeding. I'm sorry if you're expecting that kind of lecture. No, I'm telling you, you kind of have to be. And and we need to be able to support our junior colleagues better through their ups and downs in their journey. Don't let them wallow about and go like, okay, he failed, so never mind, I'll just leave him and let him sort it out himself. Especially if people have no experience in falling. Sometimes they really don't know how to pick themselves up. It sounds funny for some. The strong ones are able to pick themselves up, but there are many more that actually need you to help them up. All right. So we are here to help each other out, not to go, I'm better than you. Okay. So I have been very, very fortunate to have really good mentors who have, taken care of me in many ways, not just professionally, but even looking at my personal affect. If they see me sad or upset, they go, are you okay? And it's not because, of anything else, but out of real concern for you as the student. Okay. And so a lot of what they teach, like I said before, the good qualities I take and try to pass it on and practice that in my day-to-day work. The things that are not so good, then I kind of change it, make it better, hopefully, and then pass it on. And there are a lot, when we talk about, not being trained, there are a lot of train the trainers courses now that are being conducted. It is something that is regularly run, at least I know for postgraduate level, because postgraduate teaching is slightly different from undergraduate teaching. But I'm sure as undergraduate lecturers, you all have to attend courses such as, how to run a PBL, how to do an OSCE examiner's course and all that. That's all not just because it's so troublesome, what you think I don't know what I'm doing, kind of thing, but it's just to make sure that, again, the standard is equal all across the board, and we are being fair to everyone. Just as there are train the trainers courses, they actually train the learners courses, which is meant for the student, meant for the learner, where you teach them things such as skills like resilience, picking themselves up, adult learning skills and the like, and learning how to work and learn at the same time. So there are courses such as that available all around. Students have to play their part, like taking responsibility for your own learning. You need to develop your own skills and your own style of preparation, reflection, evaluation, and how to improve. Only you know how you can improve yourself. I can give you tips and guides, but you got to make it your own, for you to own it, for you to want it. Because you can always say, oh yeah, I'm following Prof. Azlina's style, but it's big crap because it's not me, because I'm me and you are you. We all have our own different experiences, correct? So you kind of have to own it. Take the little tips and tricks, modify it as you need for yourself that suits you, and then go with it, okay? And hopefully, we can both tango lah. I think teaching and learning, the teachers and the students, it takes two to tango. We kind of both have to play our part. It's not, if you stumble, sometimes it's not only the teacher's fault. Sometimes you have to reflect on yourself. My mother always say, when you point one finger at somebody else, three more are pointing back at you. So you kind of have to look back at yourself, whether is there something you could have done better, not just other people have done it for you. Okay, I think I really need to move on. Okay, so the next thing they wanted me to talk about is my volunteerism work. So as rewarding as teaching has been for me, I find volunteering and community service just as, and sometimes even more rewarding. So my first experience volunteering was in the first Langkawi Ironman in 2001. No, I was not the Ironman. I actually wrote to submit to be in the medical team, but some miscommunication, they thought I was some budak kecil, I guess, and they put me in the regular team in charge of registration, marking all the athletes, giving out numbers, making sure everybody's accommodation is settled. So non-medical, completely non-medical. But it was fun. I was only a second year, well, in my extended year of housemanship. And it was something very different, and it certainly taught me a lot about organizational skills, because this was a huge event. It's an international athlete from all over the world kind of thing. It was the first time I saw that happening. So it taught me organizational skills, teamwork, and the like. But my next volunteer foray into volunteering was with Mercy Malaysia, and that was firstly in 2005 after the Kashmir earthquake. I think we were, I can't remember, the 6th team that went in. So that was also very interesting, because you really get pushed out of your boundaries. No more comfortable, nice, cushy bed and house. We were sleeping in the tent. It was December, so it was freezing up in the mountains. The toilet was, when we arrived, Petronas had just built the toilet, but it was still literally a hole in the ground, and freezing cold waters. And at night you had to build a bonfire to keep yourself warm, or else, there was no heater in the tent, or else I think we would have all caught fire and sleeping in sleeping bags and stuff like that. And the second time I volunteered with Mercy was actually to Gaza, and that was in 2009. We were the first team in when the borders opened between Egypt and Gaza. And the purpose was to go in to help out in any medical way, and also to do reconnaissance about how else can we help them, so that we feed back to headquarters here and say, okay, we need this, we don't need that, etc. All right. So both those experiences really, the biggest impression on me made on both of those trips were really about how strong and resilient these people are. And again, we talk about, failing, stumbling, struggling, and these people, they didn't have homes, they were under threat all the time, and yet, they could come up to you with smiles. They give you food. I mean, of all things, they give you food. They themselves have trouble, and and they were so hospitable. So I think that was really quite an eye opener for me, and make us realize that we're really, really lucky where we are. Nowadays, I spend a lot of my time at the Limbs for Life Prosthesis Center that's in Bandar Utama. It's a foundation that is run by a Buddhist society, but our aim is to provide free lower limb prosthesis to amputees, irrespective of race, religion, economic background, etc. And very, very rewarding, because you see patients who have no limbs, haven't been walking, they're so depressed, they were so active before, and now they don't have their legs, etc. And giving them their limb really brightens up the face. You can see the difference, and really does make me feel good. And my siblings and I grew up in relatively comfortable settings, but my dad did not. He was the son of a tailor. He had to work as a child while he was learning, studying under kerosene lamps, sleeping on the floor of the shop. Finish school, go back, jahit. He was sewing songkots and bajus, and since he was 6. But what he always remembered and what he always appreciated was neighbors around him, friends, teachers, sometimes even strangers, people he had never met before, but met him and go, okay, we want to help you. All that help. He had neighbors, Chinese neighbors, who lived across the shop, saw him working, and one day apparently the old lady says, come here, you don't work anymore, you stay in my house, I give you money every day, you go buy your own halal food, but your job when you stay in my house is just to study. and that's all it needed. And this was in the, you know, in the 40s, 50s, is after the war, right? So it made us, and he always reminded us that there are a lot of good that we can do. And suddenly, if you're in a position where you can give back, then what is a better calling in life than to give back to others who are, you know, under some misfortune, right? There's not an expectation that I give you something, you must give me back something, right? If you do that, yeah, it's okay, I guess. But, you know, I'm not sure whether you feel the value of your contribution. But I think that is what has driven me to do this volunteering and helping others out. There is no expectation of anything in return. Although the group that I volunteer with, every time I go, they give me a basket of fruits. I tell them, no, it's not necessary, but they always do it because they realize that it is a Saturday of your weekend that you could spend with your family, that you're with us. All right. So try it if you haven't tried it. And if you're not sure how to start when it comes to volunteering, first ask yourself, what is your interest? What is your passion? Why do you want to help others? All right. Is it just to make me feel good? Is it an ego trip, or is it really because there is this feeling that you really want to help others? And once you identify that, then maybe, you know, there's always some body or some organization that is related to what is it you're interested in. Approach them, tell them, even though the website doesn't say anything about, oh, you know, volunteers contact us, go there and tell them, look, I want to help out. Tell them, make your intentions known. And when you do that, people will realize that you're serious, you follow through with it, and then, you know, you get called more often. I think you need to train and prepare yourself, especially if you're going to go for disaster areas and things like that. And I know with Mercy, as with a lot of the medical organizations, I think they do training the courses to teach you things like, you know, if you're in a red zone, war zone, this is what you need to do. If, you know, you see someone coming at you with a gun, what to say, what not to say to this person or that person. All right. So, and I find most importantly, really work from your heart. And if there's, again, no expectation of anything in return, that is usually good enough, at least for me. Okay. So the last bit of my talk, I'm really running over time, is nurturing leaders. So growing up, as I was struggling through school and medical school and all that, I never thought I'd be in a position where people look at you, oh, boss, leader. And yet, thankfully, due to over time with exposure and experience, I have had this privilege and this honor of being either appointed or invited to head various committees. I headed my department, etc. And I find that none of these appointments really just given to me because you're Azlina, anak of, you know, somebody. I had to work for it. Okay. So as with anything in life, you really have to earn the privilege to lead. So why do we need leadership as doctors, right? It's very complex. And actually, just like I said, that all doctors are actually teachers, even though you're not formally called a lecturer or a teacher, all doctors are teachers. And with that also, all doctors are actually leaders in their field. If you think of it, if you have a resuscitation going on in the ward, you're the houseman, there's only nurses and the PPKs, who's the leader of the group? Is the houseman. Of course, if you have someone more senior, then that senior person will be the leader of the group. But as the houseman, with 6 months experience versus the nurses, which are 1-2 years of experience or more, you are still considered the leader of the group. So whether you like it or not, all doctors are leaders in their day-to-day work. Some doctors have more formal appointments. So that's when you get, you know, the head of the unit, head of the department, pengarah hospital, etc. All right. But like I said, as with all cases, all of us actually have to play the leadership role. Why is it important? It improves patient healthcare. It's effective. It avoids wastage, overuse. It's safe because if you don't have, you know, it's like a headless chicken, right? You're running around not knowing what to do. You need a leader to set the direction, set the course for everyone to follow. All right, and it avoids wastage of time, resources, money. And it is patient-centered when you are a medical leader, right? And as a leader, you need to be then also fair to everybody, not just everybody in your team, but even your patients. There is no such thing as I will be biased. I will only treat this group of patients, but not that group of patients because I just don't like them. You know, there's none of that happening. So why is it difficult to get good leaders? I'm sure if you look around and your experiences in working, you will realize that some leaders are really great at what they do. Some leaders, well, I'm not sure why they're here. Well, in the first place, just like in teaching, you need good role models, right? If you don't have good role models, you're not going to get good leaders. So back to, you have to be that positive role model for people to emulate. Okay. You need to be trained to be a good leader sometimes. You don't realize it. Some of it, yes, you can pick up the skills, but you need to be taught and trained sometimes. To be a good leader, you need to be a good follower, right? When we start from the bottom and we move up, if you're not a good follower and you don't even follow whatever your leader tells you, then how are you going to learn and improve yourself and create this positive impression of yourself that you could lead? So you need to be a good follower. You obviously need to have good communication skills. And I think that's one of the also drawback of sometimes our education system, where our students, when they come in, their communication skills not so great. And it's because when they were young, they were always taught, don't question, just do as you're told. You don't talk, you don't say anything. The confidence in speaking, whether it's Malay or English, is not there. So the way we talk sometimes is not very good. So you then reflect that you are not a really good leader. You don't get your point across. And of course, the personality of the leader is important. Again, this goes back to the role model. If you have an autocratic kind of person that just, scolding you all the time, then yes, he gets the job done as a leader should, but is he really a good leader? Maybe not. Okay. So what does it mean to be a good leader? Well, like I said, the character has to be nurturing, patient. You have to be approachable. You need to have some vision, some direction of where you want everyone to go. You're able to balance supervision and independence of your students. So again, teaching your students to be more independent in their learning. You are really good at teamwork and promoting teamwork. You're good with your communication skills, and of course, clinically, you are also pretty capable. You may not be the best doctor, but you are a safe doctor, and I think that's really important too. But being a leader also comes with a set of challenges. Of course, we have to kowtow sometimes to the bigger boss. You have to kind of follow what their ultimate vision of the organization is, not just what you want to do, because you can't go, crazy and go complete opposite direction. And as leaders, sometimes it is very difficult for you to balance your work-life balance, your leadership. And certainly I struggled through that when I was a head at one time. When does the phone actually turn off? Can it turn off when you are the boss of the organization? Ding, ding, ding. And of course, making time to teach and trying to balance your clinical services. So how do you overcome it? And I think that the Malay saying is pretty true. If you want to make any changes, you need to do it when people are young. All right. And this is the same when you want to nurture leaders. You don't nurture them when they are 50 years old. It might be a bit difficult to shape them. This needs to start when they're younger, whether they're at medical school, but better still, younger still, when they're at home with you. You the parent, teach your children all these different good qualities that hopefully will guide them towards becoming a good leader in the future. And let me see. I think mentoring is also, and that's where again mentoring is really important. As teachers, as parents, we need to be able to inculcate all these good values into our children so that they can carry this forward to be perpetuated. In order to be a good leader, also not just, again, like the teacher, it's not just the teacher teaches you and tell you how to be a good leader, or your parents tell you how to be a good leader. You must want to be that good leader. You must want to gain these skills and characteristics of a good leader. And I think, like I said, as a good follower, there are certain qualities of a good follower. One of it is, again, good communication skills. You must have integrity. When you are a good follower, it doesn't mean that everything your leader says, yes, boss, I will just follow. You must know when is the right time, right place. If your leader is asking you to do something unethical, what do? Follow through, speak up. I know as juniors, a lot of my trainees tell me this, prof, it's very easy for you to say, you are the prof, we are just the student. If we say this, we're going to get into trouble. That's not the point, right? If something is wrong, you don't go through with it. And that, I think, is probably why sometimes we see, complaints happening about bullying and this and that. And people, there are a lot of witnesses, but they just keep quiet and they don't say anything because they're so afraid what will happen to my career if I speak up. But, you know, I think it's all about the right thing to do, right? And I think I would rather be out of a job than working in a place where, you know, it has very bad ethical behaviors and practices. I think a job is a job. I'm sure if you're really good, you will find a good job somewhere else and you will find it more rewarding. So be honest, work with integrity, right? And in order to do that, you also, as a good follower, you need to be courageous. You need to be able to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. Of course, you don't say it in a rude, demeaning manner. You try to be as polite as you can. Hopefully your boss will understand. But of course, if it's not right, then you need to be able to escalate it. Your character obviously is of a good leader. You are good at teamwork, you have passion and drive, and certainly you have to be knowledgeable and skillful at what you do. My journey to be a leader actually started very mundanely. I was a typist when I was a houseman for my medical officers who couldn't get their thesis ready in time because apparently I type very fast. So that taught me things like getting the job done right. You know, because if I mistype something, they're going to fail the exams and that wouldn't look good on me. You need to have some pride in your work. I also volunteered a lot or helped out a lot in organizing meetings, national, international, and institution. Again, that taught me things like, again, teamwork, organizational skills, being creative in thinking. And as a result, I think, you know, I'm visible enough that people realize what I'm capable of doing, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. I've been fortunate to be elected president of the Malaysian Orthopedic Association when I was 41, the youngest president ever elected. I was head of my department until 2 years ago. And I'm involved in a lot of committees, you know, and lead a lot of committees at national level. So I think it's not, like I said, it's not something that was given to me. It's something that I had to work my way up to. But if you learn along that journey, I think you will find that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not always you're going to be somebody's machai all the way until the end. You will have some role. And I think as a leader, then it's very easy to just say, okay, I've hit the top. I will just be the boss and direct everyone. But as I said, you as a leader, you need to have vision. You need to have direction. You must be able to guide the people who are working with you to the right direction. Whether or not they want to be there, you need to give them the path. Okay. This is my last slide, I promise. So essentially the Hippocratic Oath steers and asks us to strive to be the best that we can be, whether in a personal level or professional level, and this so that we can help others in their life's journey. I think with passion for what we do, resilience, vision, and experience, God willing, we'll be able to achieve a meaningful career in the healthcare profession. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Azlina. What do they are to want? The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. Thank you once again, Prof, for that most inspiring speech. We would now like to call upon Honoraida Yusuf, Registrar of IMU, to do the honors of presenting a token of appreciation to Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Azlina. Thank you, Puan Noraida. Moving on to Symposium 3 for the Teaching and Learning segment, we would now like to invite Mr. Kishan Kunalan to moderate the session. Mr. Kishan Kunalan is our alumnus from the Pharmacy Program cohort of BP 116. Go ahead, Mr. Kishan.
Okay, so very good morning to everyone. My name is Kishan. As our MCs introduced me just now, I am an alumnus from the Bachelor of Pharmacy program, graduated in 2020 from the batch BP 116. And I'm very happy and also honored to be invited to moderate today's symposium. Before I move on and give a brief introduction to what we're going to be discussing and talking about today, let me just invite our panelists onto the stage to join me here. Our first panelist is Dr. Lewin Mi Ai, from Senior Lecturer from the Community Medicine Department and Program Director of the Master of Science in Public Health program here at IMU. Dr. Lewin graduated in 2015 from the Master of Science program in Public Health and from the batch MSc PH 213. Our next panelist is Dr. Amanda Albert, lecturer and psychiatrist at the University of Malaysia, Sarawak. Also another alumnus, graduated in 2012 from the medicine program ME 207 here from IMU as well. All right, thank you for joining me. So anyone who has worked or studied within the healthcare field can agree that medicine and healthcare is a very, very challenging field. I would know that as well. It's also a field where learning never stops. You know, and it's not only related to our medical knowledge, it's also on our social skills, soft skills, how we engage ourselves in our workplace, so on and so forth. We can say that we are in a constant flight or fight mode. But apart from learning these new skills, to better adapt ourselves throughout our working life, is also how we pass on these skills to the incoming generations, the new colleagues who are going to be joining us in the workforce, and how we train them to overcome the challenges as they come and go. And that would tie in with our topic for our symposium today: overcoming challenges through innovating teaching and learning approaches. So, without further ado, I would just like to pass the floor to our panelists, maybe Dr. Lewin, to ask you, what are your thoughts about overcoming challenges through innovative teaching and learning approaches? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. And thank you very much, everyone, for your presence here today. And it is such an honor for me to be a panelist for this symposium. And I'm real glad that I can be one of the panelists and participate in this symposium. Okay, so to answer Mr. Christian's answer regarding innovations of teaching and learning approaches, especially from the postgraduate learning point of view, because my expertise is at the moment is the postgraduate program, because I'm coordinating the postgraduate programs. And I believe as an alumni yourself, this is one of the learning process you have to go through if you are just undergraduate. But if you have only, if you have already learned the postgraduate program, you might probably have to go through, want to go through another step, like scale up yourself with another postgraduate or diploma or certificate or even PhD, if you don't know. So I would like to highlight things from postgraduate learning aspect. So the main objective, we need to know, when the learners want to further their study, they need to know what's their main objective. For me, I personally believe, since I've already, scaled up myself with postgraduate degree in IMU, I believe when I attend postgraduate program, I want to learn to practice that skill in the field. So I look for somewhere where we can learn that skill and equip ourselves with that skill, because it is required, right? So the main objective of the postgraduate learning is to equip yourself with the skill required in that field. Right? So whether it's a public health or clinical knowledge, or whether pharmacy or basic medical sciences, up to you which one you want to further. And also for the institutions, our responsibility is to train them to become a job-ready graduates, right? So that they not only become a job-ready graduate, but to practice that skill and also solve the problem at their job place. So that's one of the issues. So that I believe is the main objective of the postgraduate training or learning after you have graduated. So that's one thing. And of course, teaching and learning approaches has already evolved and changed in the past decades. And I believe as for the IMU, we are already on the correct, new path and already on this innovative path. So like Prof. Azlina mentioned earlier on, previously it was mostly teacher-centered approach, where teachers are like they are on stage. So we use like in teaching and learning, terminology, we call it a pedagogy approach. Pedagogy approach where it's more of like the one-way teaching, and limit our. So it's not like limit our creativity, but it's more of like we brainwash the students, like so think this way, think that way, learn this. So we limit their thinking and creativity in the previous form of like teaching and learning. And also like Prof. Azlina highlighted, everyone has their strength, limitation, and shortfalls, right? So your teacher in that time or so in the past, where they practice that pedagogy type of teaching style, they might not know what's your strength, what's your shortfall. They just want this want you to fit into this thinking and learn this particular set of skills, right? So that's one thing. And also in the past, the challenges we face are because in my undergrad years, I faced this issue, right? So it's more of like you are whatever teaching and learning activity you did, it's more of like fault finding rather than giving you credits for what you are capable of doing, right? So that's the perspective in that time, right? But things has changed, and we have moved on to the innovative and more recent style of teaching and learning, right? So we have overcome those challenges that we faced in the past, and also in IMU as well, we have moved on from pedagogy style of learning to pedagogy, especially in the postgraduate teaching and learning. So I think we are doing pretty good at the moment by changing our style of teaching and using the innovative concept for the postgraduate teaching and learning. Right?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Levin. So basically, in a way, we don't want to limit our students' creativity and learning. What we were doing last time, where we tried to mold them for the educators at that time to what they thought was right. Now it's giving more freedom for the students themselves to grow, innovation in a way.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you very much. And now to Dr. Amanda, what are your thoughts on overcoming challenges through innovating teaching and learning approaches?
Right. Thank you to IMU once again for inviting me. It's a bit of a travel, but I was really, really happy to be back. I haven't stepped foot in the uni for, I don't know, a good 13 years, I think. I almost got lost on the way. But some things remain true. The atrium is still the heart of IMU, and it's really great to be back. It's really great to see familiar faces. We talk about overcoming challenges, yeah. I think there are just sort of like three main points I'd like to put forward today. The first thing being that innovation is really the only way forward if any of us are dealing with students today, really the only way. The second point would be that you need to discern what the generation is, what kind of generation we are dealing with today. And the third one would be a little bit on my own personal challenges, overcoming my own personal challenges in teaching and learning. So when I say that innovation is really the only way forward, Let me just give you a little bit of a background so you know where I'm coming from. So I was born in Kuching. I am of mixed heritage. So my dad is a Sarawakian native, he's a Bidayu, my mom is a Chinese. So from that onwards, I saw two different worldviews, two different approaches to learning, two different learning styles because of the way their cultures were, okay? And then my mom was somebody who was ahead of her time. She didn't believe the saying that children should be seen and not heard. She didn't believe the saying, do what I say, don't do what I do, right? So she really embodied that for me early on. And she sent me to a kindergarten where it was very play-based, not as academic-based. We learned through playing. My first piano classes were classes where we didn't play exam pieces, but we played music we knew, nursery rhymes, things like that, right? So I was exposed to sort of this style of learning quite early on. Then I went to school in a big town. I went to school in a small town as well. So different approaches there, right? I was blessed to be in an ed maths class, you know, additional mathematics can be dry as anything, but an ed maths teacher who made it funny. He made additional maths funny, right? And I had a history teacher who made history a real story. Okay, so we, after that, I came to IMU, right? And I met role models that are still role models for me today here. Our batch was the first batch to go to Western Sydney as a partner medical school. So we sort of like had to learn new ways to get information, new ways to learn because there was no senior before us to tell us how to go about things. So we had to innovate in a way, right? Housemanship, I came back to Sarawak. And then so happened that towards the end of my housemanship, they opened up psychiatry, mental health as a houseman posting. So I was the first one to enter and I was the only psychiatric houseman throughout the entire duration that I was in psychiatry as a houseman. Again, nobody before me. So sort of I had to learn on the job, you know, ask questions, find ways to get information. So that was that. Come training time, our Ministry of Health decided that they would start to recognize the postgraduate qualifications from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, UK. So before this, it was just you took the local masters and that was the only way, but they opened up this new way. So again, I found myself in uncharted waters. So having to navigate something new, yeah? So I guess looking at the that sort of thing where things are always changing, the worldview where things are changing, right? And teaching and learning is different as you go along. That's sort of like why I say that innovation is really the only way forward. So you will notice that with students today, back in the day, if you remember when you were studying, those of us who have studied maybe 10 years ago at least, when your prof says, back in my day, we view it as something, wow, you know, wow, respect, man. Oh man, I aim to be like that one day, right? But today, if you say back in my day, you become a museum artifact. You resign yourself as, oh, this lecturer doesn't know what's going on, it's totally irrelevant. Okay? Back in the day when we got scolded, when there was sarcasm, we go like, okay, we take that on board. You know, eventually we learn to laugh at the sarcasm. Today, if you scold and you're sarcastic, you paralyze the student. And that's just the way it is. It's not necessarily a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of the world we live in today, right? And before this, it's like rote learning, you know, you take pride in like memorizing everything in the anatomy museum, everything, right? Rote learning. But today, students have a wealth of info. They can access this at their fingertips in Google. So we actually need to shift to thinking about information literacy, telling them, okay, is this reliable? Where are we getting this from? Can you trust this information? I think that's sort of like where we do need to learn to innovate. So when we think about discerning what the current generation is like, right? Remember, yesterday we talked about knowing, when we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about knowing your customer, knowing your clientele. We, as teachers, need to know our learners. And the current generation is vocal. They're not afraid to say when something is not right. Okay, take a lot on board. They look like they're dismissing everything, but actually they overthink and they take it all in. It's like an internal anxiety. And I deal a lot with this in mental health as well, right? They listen more to influencers, people who influence rather than just say following the mold, okay? They are a woke generation, okay? They're serious about things. And this is the reason why, as Dr. Richard mentioned, community engagement yesterday, the push, the movements for Black Lives Matter, you know, LGBTQ plus rights, climate change is so strong, and a lot of it is being led by the current young generation. So in a way, it's not all bad. The current generation is actually a generation that's sensitive to some really important things in society. They're a compassionate generation. There are a lot more people who, I deal a lot with animal rescue, and there are a lot of young generation who are naturally compassionate towards the welfare of animals. So we see that there are a lot of strengths that we need to harvest. So that's what I mean by discerning what the current generation is like. Yeah. So in my own little journey, I joined UNIMAS after qualifying as a psychiatrist in Ministry of Health. I served in a big city hospital and I served in a small district hospital as well. I joined UNIMAS about coming to two years plus ago. So I currently teach in the MOH, MOE, and in a church sort of capacity as well. So we deal a lot with young people. My own personal challenges overcoming teaching and learning approaches are, instead of going on into a lecture, you don't know this, why are you asking such questions, blah, 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 right? Instead of going into that lecturing, like membebel mode, you know, instead of going into that, a more helpful approach is to actually ask where you got this information from. Hey, you know what made you ask that question? What are you thinking about? What's going through your mind? And going from there. I think that's a lot more helpful when we are innovating our approach to teaching and learning today. One more is, instead of giving answers straight away, I will actually say, oh, you know what? I'll give you some time. Why don't you go and find out? And then let me know. And then we'll talk about it. I prefer to do that. So I never give a direct answer when I'm emailed, which probably drives some of my students crazy. I ask a question back, right? And I find that along the way, they knew the answer all along, just that they were not confident enough to say it, or they knew and then they had to think about it a little bit more. Yeah. The third thing I've done is, instead of giving info why you need to know, in mental health, right, we teach our students, you know, when a patient comes to you crying and tells you something very distressing, you need to validate that emotion, even if you don't agree. You don't agree that this patient should attempt suicide after a breakup with a relationship breakup, for example. You don't agree, you think it's ridiculous, right? But there is a way that you can demonstrate validation. You can validate their emotion, and then that can help you to help this patient. So we try to teach our students that. But instead of going on about, oh, this is why you need to know, this is why you need to know validation, right? Or this is why you need to know what depression is, how to diagnose depression, I've switched my approach a little bit. I tell them that learning to validate will help you with your own life conflicts as well, right? It helps you to deal with your conflicts in your family, with your spouse in future. You know, some of the boys, they say, it can teach you to pujok your wife, right? I mean, in a way, we give them some real life possibilities that can help. Yeah, so that's one way. And the other reason I go, instead of saying, okay, this is what you know, this is why you need to diagnose depression, I tell them how frequently we see people who are depressed around us, and how likely it is that we ourselves will experience an episode in our lifetime, and to tell them that maybe this is why you want to know a little bit about it. Yeah, so those are some personal challenges that I myself have overcome in the way of teaching and learning. Of course, today I've had to learn on the job a lot with regards to graphics, approaching different learning styles, not just lecturing with slides, but learning to use online polls, learning to use standout slides, learning how to engage people who learn in a different way, who learn visually, who learn via interactive sessions and things like that. Yeah, so to do all this, we really need to overcome our back in the day syndrome. We need to overcome cultural concepts of what we think all teachers and lecturers should be. And I think we do need to overcome our own natural inclinations. That's sort of like what I've got to say, I think personally, about overcoming our current challenges by innovating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you can say like it's a combination of your personal experiences and also knowing your students and your trainees at the moment, and just combining both of that. And also you mentioned something about validation, right? I can concur about that as a previous undergraduate who went through my education in 21st century. When I was a student in primary and secondary school, the moment any of our teachers or even my parents were to say, back in my days, we were all grown and we will just zone out within minutes. But I've learned to appreciate when I came to undergraduate that a lot of the experiences that our lecturers and teachers were trying to share were important, but it was on their end. They needed to find a way to help implement those. Teach and share those experiences with us, and it was also a responsibility on our end to see how we can take in whatever experiences that we are being taught, skills and also knowledge, and I can apply it in our own learning as well. So yeah, it's exactly, yeah. So and I think both what Dr. Amanda and Dr. Lynn have mentioned is that we are having experiences from the past, learning how things have innovated and also grown in the present, and combining those to come up with an innovative way to ensure teaching and learning goes on smoothly. It's never a stagnant thing. Yeah. So we have heard from both the panelists. I believe now we can open the floor for questions from our participants. If you have any questions for our panelists here regarding the topic of overcoming challenges in teaching and learning. Anyone from the floor? If you wish to ask a question, you can just unmute your mic. It will show a green color once you've pressed the button, and you can speak freely. Any questions?
So thank you so much, Dr. Lin and Dr. Albert, for sharing. And I think that's very important, right? Thinking about how you're teaching and essentially the approach from a student focused point of view. I'm just curious in terms of, do you guys have any thoughts where I think you've talked about, the approaches the older generation teachers where it's more teachers focused, and how I think some of our more seniors would then essentially view the younger generation as a strawberry generation, right? That's a term that I think we've heard of, that they're too sensitive now, instead of like what Dr. Albert has mentioned, where they are sensitive to certain areas that they deem is more important. I wonder if maybe, is there a line or some sort of qualities that we see that, maybe a little too much, or actually this is actually a good thing that they are more sensitive to certain topics that are deemed more important at this day and age.
Great question. And I think when we talk about amending our approach to our current students, that question will always come up, because it always comes, and we are well aware of that. At which point do we become, allowing everything, and just like further strawberryfying what you call a strawberry generation? Okay, I see that's a valid concern. I deal a lot with that as well, because usually if students have problems, they will get referred. They will get the opinion from the psychiatric fraternity or the mental health fraternity. I used to view it as, oh dear, it does seem that the current generation is a lot more sensitive than before. But I have also learned in my reading and a view, the recognition that this is not just happening in Malaysia, but in all parts of the world. This is a global thing. I realized that it's also a product of the world we live in today, right? Young people today, for example, back in the day when we didn't have mobile internet, okay, our community was just, we sought approval from maybe 20 people around us, the approval of 20 people, our 20 people in our circle is the most important to us. Today, with TikTok, just TikTok alone, you are looking for the approval of 20,000 people. You're looking for 2,000, 20,000 people, and there's no way you will get the approval of such a huge crowd. Man was not made to gain such huge approval under normal circumstances. We were meant, if you think about evolution, we were meant to have the approval of the small tribe that we survive in. Yeah, so I guess, I've learned to view that as a product of the world we live in, and also to recognize that, say, if we use the old way of just harping on it and saying, you know what, blah, 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 it kind of doesn't work. It kind of doesn't work. We do need to amend our approach. I think we're still looking for answers to those questions in the psychiatric fraternity, but to at least recognize and validate and say, you know what you're going through, even if I have not gone through it before, I can see that it's a product of what's going on around you and the world you live in. And then we go from there. There are ways to teach them, I think. And I think Prof. Azlina alluded to this earlier. Like in a way, she was telling her, the master student who didn't make it for his exit exam, right? There are ways to teach about, at this point, we do need to learn how to pick ourselves up and go on. We do need to learn how to, move forward. But you can't teach the current generation that without validating them first. And to say that, I see that this is a result of, all that you've gone through in your life and what's been going on in the world today. Yeah. If we just use the old, hey, pick up and move on, man. Chop, chop. Doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dr. Amanda. And also, what I would like to add on is also what Mr. Christian said about the experience, which is very vital for each and every one of us, because all of us has different level of experience and also different level of skills that we have. And I believe experience also plays a huge role. Experience plays a huge role, especially because for me, I'm the educator. So from the educator point of view, that will experience is one of the critical aspect that will push you to the next level, especially how you want to learn and also how you decide. Because previously we teach skill, now we teach like problem solving. And employers expect you not only to have the skills, but also to provide solution. So that is very vital, because every work they have problems, issue, whether you deal with the patients or whether you deal with your customers and clients, you will be, I feel like from my experience, you're solving problems all the time, on top of what you learn as a professions, and that is, I believe it's another soft skills that you must know, you must learn. We must learn also, you must learn to solve the problem. So nowadays, what happened is, educator, we become the facilitator and enabler, for the students, and instead of, dictating one way. So we as an enabler or facilitator provide them a space, so that they can be trained. They can be trained, especially problem solving, and learn what skill set they need to know to solve that particular problem, and also come up with a decision. Because previously in the past, what we see it as a, like I said, we are being trained to think in one direction only. Now, this generations, they have a lot of resources to learn. They can voice out. So what they really need to do is to encourage them and be more confident with, their decision makings in a right and ethical and professional way, right? So I believe our innovations in this current era is currently on the right direction for the future needs, and also the because in the end, how we train finally depends on what society needs and what and what employer needs, and also in turn what employer needs depends on our society needs. So eventually it's what our society needs and what problem we must solve for the society.
Yeah, so I guess in a nutshell, Dr. Au, in a nutshell for your question, there's plenty of room for the senior generation to teach. In fact, the young people need the senior generation's advice and experience, definitely. It's just the approach that we have to amend. Because if we go at it in the previous way we went at it, all of it's gonna fly over their heads and it doesn't get taken well at all. So it's just I think the approach, the packaging of the material still go, it's still necessary, it's still so important, but we need to repackage it a little bit. Yeah, for the current time.
How it's being delivered has changed over time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree as a member of the strawberry generation. As it's seeing how it's like X mentioned, how in this day and age, the validation that we need is no longer from that 20 people in our group of friends. It has now evolved into finding validation from the entire world. So as our worldview changes, that's how we adapt and change the way we pass on and teach the current generation or the people who are going to enter the workforce later on. That's very, very good points. Thank you so much for that. Now, maybe we have time for one more question. Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Win and Dr. Amanda. I have two questions. Not sure if that's enough time because I think it's rather broad. One thing is, one of the panelists, Mr. Bikesh, mentioned yesterday that healthcare is a largely undisrupted sector due to the regulation. I believe that education as well, due to its prestigiousness and as well as it's more inclusive. Yeah. So question one is, what's your thought and view on the future of education? Yeah. Number two is, as you know, like the online lectures are widely available on YouTube, and the students probably have watched the YouTube videos before going to your lesson or even Coursera. And as an educator, how do you make yourself staying relevant, that knowing that your student it's worth for your student to go to your lecture instead of learning it online? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And that is a very good question. And as an educator, I believe we also, we don't stop students from, learning from different resources, because what we currently practice is that we provide the package for the students to learn, and also different resources that they can find to solve a problem. So in my opinion, and from my professional point of view, learning from YouTube is totally fine. And I believe for me also, when I started my career as a lecturer, of course, as a lecturer, I had to read a lot of textbooks and resources before I go for my lecture. But you know what? I basically watched YouTube first and Google first about the, because that's the fastest way you can understand, fastest way you can understand about learning outcomes or a concept, because these days YouTube can explain you about the entire concept in 3 minutes, 1 minute, right? So that's actually help us a lot, and I believe in whether you do your course in Coursera or any other online course, that is what you will encounter. Everything is within a few minutes that explain you the concept, explain the concept in a few minutes, and only after that we will provide other learning resources where the students can go deeper. Right, so we don't straight away, shoot them with the huge load of information. Okay, read this 7 pages, 10 pages journal or article so that you will understand this. No, we don't do that anymore. We will just give them a teaser or a concept, explanation, and also make them understand the topics in a very concise and short way, brief way. And only after that, we will probably, or we will push them to learn deeper by designing your assessments in a particular way so that they will learn it deeper, because curriculum designs and development these days is very, innovative now. And because now I'm in this field, I got to learn a lot about how to develop the curriculum, how to design assessments so that, students, they will automatically be in these systems to, learn deeper than what they saw on the internet, YouTube, and so on and so forth. So now we don't limit the students to learn only what we provide to learn, but they can learn from anywhere. As long as they achieve this, outcome, we are totally fine, right? Anything from that?
All right. Your first question was about the future of education. Some things change with new information and all that, but some core things remain the same. The core bulk of the information, especially in medical education, is going to be the same. And I think all the schools, in that sense, there's a lot of room for passing forward legacies, passing forward information, right? All this, this broad field of knowledge needs to be passed on, definitely. And it's an honor, it's a tradition to pass it on, like the Hippocratic Oath, that kind of thing. It's a sacred knowledge, but we need to innovate our packaging constantly. So we need to innovate the way it's delivered and all that constantly. So the future, I think we need to constantly, like how you buy the same Milo, but the packaging keeps changing. But hopefully the core stuff is still good. Yeah, so that's what we need to do. I think we need to innovate the way in which we present this sacred knowledge to our students over time. I think that's the future, innovating our presentation and our delivery. How would I encourage students to come to my lecture versus learning online? I'm a big fan of online courses. I know what there is out there. It's a little bit, you got to add in what only you can provide. Interactions are something only I can provide, interactions in a local setting. Giving lots of examples, lots of stories, lots of examples from my own personal experience. I think that keeps students coming. They tell me that examples help them to learn. So I give examples. I give room for lots of questions. In my classes, there's no such thing as a stupid question. When you don't ask it, then it becomes stupid. If you ask it, then it's out there and you learn, right? So I give room for unlimited questions, literally, during class time. I provide a variety of styles for the slides. I am, during COVID times, we've had to learn all sorts of ways, all sorts of new technologies. So I was not very tech savvy prior to this, but COVID just made that, we had to learn, very quickly. And in fact, when they read stuff online or they watch stuff online, I actually encourage students to come back to me with what they've read and what they've learned and tell me what you think about it. And is what you're reading online disagreeing with what you learned in my lecture? And let's talk about it. So I encourage that a lot. Well, I guess we got to add, as lecturers who run physical classes, we've got to add our own added value in a way to compete or actually to give students a reason to actually come. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So this is summarize what all of us have what has been discussed. Knowledge remains the same. The skills and whatever we've learned throughout our education and also throughout our careers is always the same. And as well as our personal experiences as we go through our careers, the challenges that we face will give us when we find a way to overcome those challenges, we'll gain the skill set necessary to face those challenges in the future. But how we ensure that that education is continuous, and we pass down those skills and knowledge to the future people who are coming into our careers and the people that we're working in, to make sure that how we present it, how it's being taught, as we mentioned just now, Dr. Amanda, how it's being packaged is constantly changing and constantly evolving as we go through. Because as evident from what we've been discussing, teaching and learning is never a stoic thing. It's always evolving, and who knows. In a few years ago, how teaching and learning was done was that it's always this one thing. Whatever your lecturer says is gospel. You have to follow through. In this current day and age, it's we have the students needing more validation, and they're always questioning. You need to present it in a different way in order for them to absorb it. And in the future, it can be anything. So bottom line is teaching and learning has to be always innovative and evolving to suit the current needs for education. And it doesn't always have to be from medical and healthcare. It goes for all educational institutions as well. So thank you very much. And well, we have run out of time for any more questions. We'll be moving on to the oral presentation later on. For now, we'll be taking a 5-minute break, and we'll resume back in exactly 11:11. And so yeah, thank you very much to Dr. Levin and Dr. Amanda. We will join us later. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Puan. All right, everyone, if we can have everyone please take their seats, we can proceed with the oral presentation. Now, I would like to invite our first presenter. Try hard. Okay, so I would like to invite our first presenter, Dr. Kasimsuk Yotha Samuter from ME 203. And also a resident in the emergency medicine department in Ledsin Hospital, Thailand, with the title of their presentation, From a Disaster Medical Team to COVID-19 Field Hospital Operator. So please welcome Dr. Kasimsuk to the stage. So, Doctor, just to remind you, you will be having 15 minutes in total, preferably to have your presentation within 10 minutes, and the remaining 5 minutes will be for question and answer. At the 5-minute mark, I will ring the bell to indicate that you have 5 minutes left. Thank you.
This one. Hello. Okay. That's now it's a bit off. Okay. We just start my time. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to everyone in this hall and those of you who are listening online. I'm Dr. Kasimsuk from Yotha Samut from Thailand. I'm an emergency medicine specialist. Okay, working in Ledsin Hospital under the Department of Medical Service, Ministry of Public Health of Thailand. So today, this 10 minutes, I will share with you my experience on what the COVID pandemic had taught me on response to COVID-19. As you all know, disasters can happen anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. It can happen as a tsunami. It can happen as an earthquake. It can happen as a, cyclone, typhoon. This is an example of some of the disasters. 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami, which is close to our heart, happened at that time. And there was a lot of loss of life. 2010, the Haiti earthquake, there was also a loss of life. Medical responses were required for all of the operation concerning disaster. 2010, there were medical response, but they were substandard and also uncoordinated. I would like to make a quote from Dr. Ian Norton, who was the EMT team coordinator. He quoted, "In clinical and disaster care, sometimes good intentions are not enough." So there was a starting point of something called the Emt Initiative, which set to standardize all the emergency responses to disaster. 2010 was an earthquake. 2010 December, there was also the start of a meeting, the PAHO, the Pan American Health Office. They set to make the standard for the EMT. At that time, it was called the FMT, Foreign Medical Team. November 2013, there was the Super Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. At that time, what was set out by the WHO was put into place. And finally, in 2015, the word FMT was replaced by EMT, Emergency Medical Team. So these are the components, the guiding principles of when a team wanted to be built. There's 6 guiding principles there, which include safe care, equitable care, ethical care, and also the response is accountable response, appropriate response, and also coordinated response. There's also the standard of care that needs to be taken into practice. These standards are grouped into 3 groups: the administration, the clinical, and the logistical standard. So Thailand, we had a history of making emergency medical teams, not under the name EMTs, but the disaster response team. And the WHO has many types of EMT, namely the type 1 mobile, which is like a mobile unit, until something more sophisticated, like the type 3 EMTs, which in the world there's only 2 nations that do that. For Thailand, we started something small as a type 1 fixed EMT. The story of disaster response, medical response in Thailand started quite a long time ago. So it was after the tsunami, 2008, we had the training for what is called the Medical Emergency Response Team, or also known as the MERT. Every year we train around 10 teams. So by 2018, we managed to train all the 77 provinces around the country. So at the photo on the right is the response that we made, international response. That was to Nepal in 2015. So that was one of the notable responses. So 2018 was when we started our preparations for verification to be the EMT. So this you can see is a tent that we use. For infectious disease, it was only a small part of that big complex. So 30th and 31st July 2019, the WHO came. So this was the verification process. So it's like, you know, when they go to the accreditation, your hospital or your university, look at all documents, they ask you this and that, okay? But eventually we became the Thailand EMT. So this was in 2019. What this means that we were prepared to respond to disaster anywhere around the world. But 2020, COVID-19 hit us. So our dreams are shattered a bit. Thailand has a few outbreaks of COVID-19. The first wave was quite okay, actually. It was, at that time, it looked so scary. The highest we had was 188 cases per day, but still we managed to control that. But the second wave, you can see there was a big spike. The highest case was 959 cases per day. That was the highest. So there was a lot of impact to the country at that time. The heart of the infection was in a province called Samut Sakhon, which is just outside Bangkok. And for the center was at a seafood market. At that seafood market, we had a lot of migrant workers from our neighbors that came in, and the living condition was not that good. They live in tight quarters, so the infections can spread easily. This is the picture of the province just outside Bangkok, around 50 kilometers southwest of Bangkok. So what they did was that they created what is called COVID care center using many places outside the hospital. Top left, that's a stadium. Top at the right side here, this is the temple ground. This is the market itself, and this is a factory which is finished but not yet function. So we did a site survey at the temple. This is they use it for meditation camp. So we had to go all see everything from the huts which we use for the patients to sleep. Also, we need to look at the toilets to see whether sanitation is right and whether to see that the number of toilets are enough or not for the patients. So this was the survey team. It's a multidisciplinary team. Not only the medical side, there's the mental health side, the disease control, the public health, all were involved in the planning. So this was the map area. This is where the patient stayed. This is the personnel area. So this is where we, there's also a fence around here. So we separate the personnel and the patient's area. So setting up was done. We use a tent. See, you can see here, there's a personnel tent. We also sleep here. It's air conditioned, but then we need to sleep on the ground, without sleeping bags. Okay, so setting up, also we have the warning sign that this is a restricted area. Outside also we have the what do you call the security post where there's military force and also the police is there. So this was the setting up. The army also provided us and set up the beds, as you can see in the pictures here, and also the local authorities that provide all the necessary equipment. So on the 30th of December 2020, we were deployed. The Thailand Emt team that was verified, 16 of us were deployed. There were 3 doctors, 2 pharmacists, 3 nurses, and the rest are emergency medical technicians. The leader of the team is Dr. Narumon, the small lady in the wearing the glass next to me. So on the day before the patient coming in, we had a final preparation. We had the setup of the IT equipment as to use for the telemedicine. And also we prepared our last preparation, practicing, rehearsing to wear, don and off the PPE. So 31st of December 2020, the first batch of patients arrived. The one in blue is actually our personnel going in to help manage the admission. And the patient came in by the pickup truck. So the patient came in, walking this way, drop their stuff, and go to the registration tent, as you can see on the top left there. This is the registration process. So consists of 2 parts. First part is the registration of the, like normal registration, the data and everything. And the second part is the clinical registration. The registration for the data, we have the names, and then we assign each patient a code. This is actually the bed numbers, G16. That's where they'll be staying. And so you can see here, we have also monitor for the temperature. We have the slip for the automatic BP machine. So this is to monitor the clinical. So this is a picture of the bed that we use, we lay out. Each color represents one day. So we know when the patient will be discharged according to the day, as we keep them for 14 days. So our daily routine is that we have the daily ward round. Instead of seeing the patient face to face, we use telemedicine. In the morning, all the patients will know, okay, it's time, let's say 9 o'clock, it's time, okay, they all line up in front of the computers at that side, and they will measure the blood pressure, measure the oxygen, and measure the, the temperature. So they will show us, and this is my colleague, Dr. Shrivadet, sitting on the left side, and this is interpreter. So we record all the data using computer, and we also set it up according to the minimal data set of the WHO. So if the patients have any complaint, they will voice it out at this time. So every patient will be seen. So besides our team, we also have the multidisciplinary team. We have the people from the disease control department. They will come in and do contact tracing. Other than that, the mental health team also had involvement because they would flag some of the people who are, who are at risk, who they assess and there's medium to high risk. They will need to talk to the patient directly. For those of you for those that are low risk, then it's okay. Other than that, this gentleman here is also the immigration police. So those who are not registered correctly to enter the country, then they will do the registration here. So daily meeting in the morning and also in the evening. Evening is pretty much for the after action review of each day. So we know what to plan for the next day. This is the medicine delivery device. It's called Pinto. We bought it from the Chulalongkorn University. Basically, it's just like a remote control card that has a smartphone attached to the top. So the smartphone, we communicate with the patient. So during our 7 days where we operated, we had 143 patients. All of them are foreigners, 104 males, 39 females, and mostly are all of young age, 32 years old. That's the mean. Pretty much all are also very mild cases of COVID-19 because that was I think was alpha wave. There were 3 patients who, however, were referred to a tertiary hospital. So this is the admission number. You can see that there's variation. Some days you get a lot, some days you don't get that many, you get less than 10. So there was the referral case for COVID to the hospital. There were 3 referrals. 2 was COVID related. So we actually detected from the history that the patient was having a shortness of breath. So we had to send them to the hospital for investigation. At that time, there was no portable X-ray coming to assist us. The other cases that were referred was a pregnant lady who had a hyperemesis gravidarum. Okay, so besides seeing us daily, the patient kept themselves busy, this gentleman, cleaning sometimes they wash the toilet, sometimes they do their laundry. They try to do their daily living. They request that it's a bit boring, so can we have a badminton set? Okay, yeah, there you go. So we had the badminton set. We bought the badminton set for them to play around. Also bought the sepak takraw for the male to play around. And also the spiritual aspect, since it's a temple ground, the abbot or the head monk of the temple also comes and do round in the morning, not rounds. Normally they come and receive alms in the morning, but at this picture is at night. I think it was the New Year Eve. So he came to give a blessing, and he came to give the blessing for us and also for the patient. So when the abbot comes to near the patient area, all the patient will line up and receive the prayer in the morning. So there was a good spiritual aspect there. Okay, collaborations, donations came in. They want fruits, so here comes orange. Okay, and we had to collaborate with the security force, the army and the police. It's not all work. We had time to relax. The coconut juice from the local area is very famous. And also, since this was pretty much one of the first kind of field hospital we had, the Deputy Minister of Health also came and visited us. Oh, supposed to be, I hope you're not scared of this thing. Okay, we have some animals, the dogs, and also this is the monitor lizard. When I was taking shower on the first day, he came knocking on my door. I thought my friend was playing a prank on me, but when I opened the next, oh crap. So that was the first day. Yeah. After that, I didn't see him anymore. Okay. So after 7 days, our last day, we collapsed our tent and then we packed up everything. All of us, nurse, doctors, we all put a hand in helping. And this was a moment that's quite touching to us. So before we left, we told the patient that, okay, guys, our team will finish our mission today. So if you don't mind, we take a photo with their permission with them. And we just want to say thank you and hope you get well soon. So this was a very emotional event for us. I mean, moment for us. So all of our hard work, all of our stress simply disappeared when we had this moment. Okay. So finally, I just want to say what we learned from this event, from this operation. First, we must adapt. The world is always changing. There's a word, I'm not sure if you heard it, it's called VUCA, V-U-C-E. The word is vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and what's A? I forgot. That's one more. That's one more. Yeah, I forgot the A, sorry. The second thing is that collaboration is the key. No man is an island. You cannot work alone. So networking is important and you must always work with many people. And the last thing is that you build your experience from everything you do. Everything you do, you can learn from it. I mean, there's a lot of things that you never know you learn. And sometimes you have to do it because when you do things, you can fail. But once you fail, you learn from it. It's better to fail fast. So from my point of view is that you learn a lot by doing. So I think that's the end of my presentation. So any questions?
Thank you, Doctor. We have run out of time for this presenter, so maybe we can have one question from the panelists, if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kasim. Okay, thank you very much. It was a very, good presentation, and I believe it was. I can imagine the amount of pressure and the, stress that the entire team had to go through during that tough period. I'm just only one question that because this symposium is about teaching and learning and innovations as well. So from your perspective, which skill set do you think is the most vital for the team member, whether it's from because it's a multidisciplinary team. So which skill sets do you think is the most vital and important for all of you to go through this tough period and complete it in the end?
I think if I have to focus on only one, I think it's communication. Communication is I think the most important thing is what breaks or makes any crisis or disaster go either way. If you have bad communication, it's go bad. That's why every day when we communicate with each other well, so it's a team that we already know each other, but then sometimes there are stresses. So that's why we need to communicate well with each other. That's why we have our daily after action review, that we come and talk, that we, open from the bottom of our heart, our worries, our concern. And that's why I see the communication is quite important.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Kasim Suk, and thank you, Dr. Levin. Our next presenter is Dr. Josh Tan Loh from the batch NE208, and currently a physician with the Ministry of Health Malaysia, presenting the title, The Value of Combined Qualitative and Quantitative Survey, a survey of workplace bullying and struggles among house officers in a tertiary hospital. Please welcome Dr. Josh.
Mic test. All right. Yeah, should be okay. Thank you so much. A very good morning. I'm Joash, physician from Hospital Sultanah Bahia, Alostar. First and foremost, I want to thank the committee for accepting for this opportunity to present my little project. And with the permission of the faculty, I have made some changes according to the recommendations by the faculty. Today, I'd like to share with you a little project that I organized with my junior doctors about understanding the struggles that they face at the workplace. I'm the physician in charge in the medical department for the training, learning, and growth of our house officers. Before I go any further, I want to dedicate this presentation to the many junior doctors who have journeyed with me, not only making me a better doctor or a better mentor, but also a better person. I have no conflicts of interest to declare. Housemanship is the first 2 years of internship of any fresh graduate. As they enter into the Ministry of Health, they go through 6 postings, each lasting 4 months, and this is arguably one of the longest 2 years of their working career. The working hours is impossibly long, the working environment harsh and invariably toxic, depending on where they are based at and who their supervisors are. And we know for a fact, based on a study by Samsudin et al. Back in 2021, that there are bullying to certain and variable degrees among fellow healthcare workers. And in the last decade or so, we have seen that there is a very unfavorable contract for doctors, which leaves them with either very poor job security and also with unfavorable career progression, leaving rise to an efflux of doctors leaving the civil service. And earlier this year, a tragedy occurring in Penang where a house officer was found dead at the bottom of his apartment, leading to a huge outcry among Malaysians, especially those in the medical fraternity, demanding answers and explanations. The ministry moved swiftly to introduce a huge task force, not just looking into the death of said houseman, but also into the healthcare work culture and the work practices in the ministry. This incident led us in the Department of Medicine in HSB to take a step back and to introspect. We wanted to ask our questions. How were we doing? How were we treating our junior doctors? And what are they going through? And in the most unimaginative fashion, we did a survey. This survey comprised of qualitative and quantitative aspects. It was done through a Google form. The quantitative aspects were statements, 33 statements, where we asked our participants to rank it on a Likert scale 1 to 5, based on whether how strongly they agree and how strongly they disagree. We also included qualitative questions, comprising open-ended questions to the likes of, how do you feel? Would you like to tell us anything? What are the struggles you are going through? It was designed specifically to make this personal, where I say that I'm Joash, I'm your physician, and I want to know what you are going through. I promise them that this is anonymous, that this has no bearing on the consequence, there's no consequences and no bearings on the outcome of their postings. And at 2 separate sections in the Google form, we reminded them that should you not feel comfortable to reach out to me or to my superiors to get help, there are third-party organizations made available, comprising that of the Malaysian Medical Association helpline, and also Befrienders. We had 75 house officers participating in this survey, which made up 26% of the HO workforce, significant enough for us to get a broad view of what our housemen were going through. The majority of the respondents were third posters and above, which is fairly senior, and the majority were local graduates. The results from the quantitative aspects were really not that unexpected. So the majority of them to begin with felt that the working hours were very long, which further reinforced the belief and the long-standing belief that junior doctors and doctors in general work very, very long hours. Fortunately, we could appreciate the junior doctors that we had could appreciate a relatively good working relationship, where they found that where the majority of them felt no restrictions or no significant hindrances that stops them from approaching their seniors for help or for questions relating to work matters. And only a minority of them felt that the medical schools that they attended prepared them poorly for the job of a housemanship. So well done to the local universities. In the aspect of bullying, 1/3 of our respondents have admitted that they were bullied to varying degrees. 1/3 admitted to being bullied by senior doctors, comprising of medical officers and specialists. But interestingly, an insignificantly more proportion felt that they have been bullied by their fellow colleagues. Now, 1 in 5 actually had thoughts of self-harm due to the work stresses in housemanship, and 12% of them wanted help and needed to speak to somebody, a part which we will come back to shortly. Now, these part of the quantitative aspects were, again, as said, not really unexpected. And what became interesting about the survey was when we look at the answers and the responses to the open-ended questions that we asked. So one of the few questions that I asked specifically was that, do you want to tell us anything about your journey as a HO. It was as broad, as open-ended as it could possibly be. When we asked about bullying, we asked them for specific events or incidences of how were they bullied. And then we also asked them one step further, is there anything that traumatized you during the housemanship that you want to share with us? And it was in this aspect that we had 122 written responses, making up more than 10,000 written words. This is a thesis in itself. And going through this, as I personally went through it word by word, it was unexpectedly insightful. It was painful at parts, but it was also full of kindness. So why I say it was insightful is because they actually highlighted, fortunately, because of the open-ended questions, they were able to express issues and areas which we never considered were problems. For example, they highlighted manpower shortage HOs affecting their work performances. They did not say that because we have worked long hours, we are suffering. They said that because there are not enough HOs in the ward, our MOs have to help us, our specialists have to help us do the work, and therefore they do not have the opportunity to learn. One HO in charge of 20 patients, and we couldn't learn much. So this was a paradigm shift. It changed our perception of, oh, this is the struggle that you are going through, rather than complaining about the working hours. They also highlighted that they were not so much just bullied by doctors, they were also bullied by allied healthcare professionals. In the sense, not so much in the sense of abusers or in the sense of being kicked or pushed around, but in the sense that fellow healthcare workers did not do the jobs that they were mandated to do. For example, porters not taking blood samples to the laboratories. For example, nurses not following rounds, not catching up with the morning plans, and therefore the plans were not conducted. They also highlighted that their leaves were still frozen. Now, back in the time of the COVID pandemic, due to a severe shortage and a severe need to cope and to cater to the widespread community, there was a period of time where the leaves were frozen. And this carried on due to the shortages. And then they mentioned that they did not have enough rest time, that they were not allowed to celebrate major festivities, and they felt that their families were neglected. And this led to a very painful realization that a lot of our junior doctors struggle in the same way that senior doctors, or healthcare workers, or any working professional struggle through. We read of a mother of an 18-month-old child who was separated from the child, who was not able to continue breastfeeding, and who actually had struggled with bonding after going home from work. We read stories of how the housemen were struggling to walk out of the car due to the anxieties they face, that overwhelming sense of inferiority and anxiety, and how they do not feel adequate to treat the patients. We read of stories of how junior doctors could feel that they are intimidated, not because of the harsh scolding, but because they just felt inadequate. This is painful to read, coming up from doctors who are supposed to be there in the forefront. There, they are supposed to be the ones administering healing, and yet they are the ones who are in need of healing. And yet through it all, there was so much kindness exuded from the juniors, particularly to me and also to the department. They felt that this survey with open-ended questions was a platform for them to vent, to come up with suggestions, to complain, and to just rant away. They felt that when they were ranting, as they were typing that 10,000 words, they felt that their voices were heard and they were appreciative. So it is important that as a department and as a unit, as a leader, that when we are aware of such problems, that we must take actions. The first course of business was to acknowledge the struggles and the findings to our HOs. We openly say to them, we hear you. We acknowledge the struggles that you're facing, and we are sorry. For the times that we have let you down, for the times that we have failed you, we are sorry. We will make amends. And that was what we first started by telling them. We again reaffirm that there is help available, there are supports available. Come find us, and the door is open. The next step that we did, understanding that there was bullying among senior doctors, bullying among healthcare workers, was to dialogue at a multidisciplinary and also at multi-stakeholders. We organize a meeting with the MOs. We tell them, look, the HOs are very appreciative that you guys are working hard for them, that you are sharing the burden. Let's take it one step further. Let's help them a bit more. Let's acknowledge their presence. Reaffirm that they are an important member of our team. We spoke to our nurses and our porter teams. We told them, hey, why not? Let's do our jobs together. Support, contribute to the cause of us as healthcare professionals. help us help one another. We then collaborated with our colleagues from the psychiatry department. We told them, we reaffirmed a long-standing, wonderful working relationship, whereby we reaffirm that any healthcare worker, particularly junior doctors, have that opportunity and have the opportunity to walk in for a counseling session, open door, no time, with no prior appointments required. And finally, we sought support from the top leadership. We negotiated with the directors to increase the amount, to make it open that these supports are available, to endorse the activities that we are going to conduct for them. What are my thoughts after looking at this survey? When I was reflecting on the survey and reflecting on the results, I realized that the present day struggles of our HOs are not very much different from the struggles that we face as junior doctors, or the struggles that we are currently facing as doctors who are practicing, senior doctors who are practicing. Call it as you may, strawberry generation, a generation who was raised differently, a generation who is exposed differently. The struggles remain relevant, if not more than ever. And the thing about a survey in a university like this, in an academic setting, the thing about surveys, firstly, it's not really, it's quite frowned upon because it's very difficult to collect meaningful data. But more importantly, open-ended questions means open-ended answers. It is hard to quantify or classify. And with the 10,000 words, it was tedious, it was time-consuming. And therefore, in all honesty and in all openness, this survey is in no way a robust form of a research study. But we went back, but I personally reflected and went back to the very reason why we did this survey. We did it not because we wanted to publish a paper, not because we wanted to make headlines. We did it because we want to genuinely listen and we wanted to improve. When we ask open-ended questions, when we receive open-ended answers, it gives opportunities for our participants to share with us areas that we were blindsided to highlight issues that were never once considered previously, that aha, oh yes, oh yeah moment. And that was the value of the study. And more importantly, we wanted to reaffirm to them that your voices matter, your voices are heard, and you will not be left alone. At the end of the day, simple, unimaginative surveys, cheap, easy to organize, hard to process, but they are useful and they still remain relevant in the right situations. It takes so much effort. It is difficult to show kindness and empathy, but it is required. It is an investment. At the very end of it, in the Department of Medicine in HSB, we teach and we reinforce our junior doctors, both the juniors who are struggling and to our senior doctors who are also struggling. We reinforce to them, always be kind, always be kind. And in the little that we do, we cannot change the contract, right? We cannot change the insurmountable, unfavorable odds. We cannot bring in more doctors at a short distance of time, but we can be kind. We can tell them that you are doing a good job. You see, the patient recovered because you have done your job. We are learning, we are growing together. Collectively, when we sow kindness into the next generation, into the most vulnerable of doctors, we are raising a generation of doctors who are going to be, in turn, kind to their juniors. We are going to raise generations, a cycle of kindness, of empathy, of compassion. And more than a strong workforce, more than a competent workforce, in this day and era, it is kindness and empathy that is ever so lacking. With that, I would like to thank my hospital team, my amazing hospital team, for the support, their belief, and their trust with me. From the Deputy Director, Dr. Sarima, to my wonderful consultant licensed psychiatrist, Dr. Ahmad Rostam, and my head of department, Dr. Zawani, who has allowed me to incessantly disturb her over this study. And this is an open invitation to all junior doctors or medical students who are listening physically or virtually. If you are considering housemanship, Hospital Sultanah Bahia Alostar, we welcome you.
Thank you, Dr. Joash. Now I shall give the floor to our panelists to ask one question.
Thank you, Dr. Joash, for being kind. Today, kindness makes the world go round. There's a lot to be said for that. We can be kind without being too permissive, right? We can do that. We just have to find a way. Do you have any thoughts on how your findings would guide the teaching of doctors at the university level, the undergraduate level?
Yep. Thank you for the question, Dr. Amanda. I think this is a very good question. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education has, although we serve similar functions, but then the way we carry out and execute has been very different. The findings here suggest that this generation is not entirely that strawberry, it's not entirely that entitled, and more importantly, their hearts and their passion is not at the wrong place. The findings of this survey probably would be meaningful to the university setting in the sense that, hey, maybe we need to help prepare our juniors for the workplace, to show them that the workplace is not as rosy, that even though that at the leadership level, we are trying to be kind and nice, but then the workplace is full of people of all sorts. This was one of the comments, the open-ended answers that our junior doctors did convey was that why can't everybody just be nice? But that's the reality of workplace. That's the reality of life. Unfortunately, we will always come across some nasty people, and the way to get around it, to circumvent it, is by building resilience.
All right, thank you, Joash. Thank you, Dr. Joash, for your presentation. We'll now proceed to the final presenter for today, Ms. Agus Alisha Nadia from PS 119, Care Delivery Executive at Naluri Hidup Sendirian Berhad, with her title, The Experience of Overcoming School Bullying Among Young Adults in Malaysia. Please, Ms. Agus, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I think my topic will be sort of like a continuation from Dr. Joash. Okay, so a very good morning to all. My name is Agus from cohort PS 119, actually just freshly graduated this January this year. So today I will be doing a bit of a sharing on school bullying in its long-lasting adversity and a quick finding from my research actually of what could be a potential element that can be focused on to help survivors overcome their adversity. Okay, first off, let's look into some of the information from past research and literature. So bullying is a worldwide phenomenon that is recognized across 46 countries and as a global issue, according to the WHO. So the worldwide prevalence of bullying, victimization among children is at about 13%. On top of that, the act of cyberbullying has also been arising that changes the definition of bullying among students nowadays. So this issue is not novel to Malaysia as well. So the National Human Rights Society in Malaysia stated that bullying in school is at all-time high. According to reports, 84% of Malaysian youngsters are bullied in some way, and also with 33% experiencing cyberbullying. Also, it should be taken into account that the high possibility of some school bully cases are left unreported because they are just scared to step forward. So basically, why do students bully other students? Just a brief one I just want to go through. So past studies had also explored the contributing factors to school bullying and discovered varying results. Some reasons are the normal, gaining power and conformity with the crowd, which are applicable to Malaysian environment as well. However, in addition to the listed factors, Malaysia being a multi-ethnic country, bullying can happen between ethnic groups and sometimes can lead to a serious physical bullying involving weapons. Also being a country that actually inclined towards academic success, Malaysia's students was found bullying others because they were jealous of other academic success as well. This one is a bit shocking for me. So what is the current effort in Malaysia? There are definitely some current effort in schools to curb the bullying phenomenon. So the usual students are taught about the code of conduct and the penalties of bullying at school. But other than that, there is also the Bye Bye Bully campaign was developed in Malaysia to just spread awareness within the society. Besides that, serious cases of school bullying would involve the police and also will be published to the public through social media to stress the seriousness of school bullying. However, the sad truth is that all this effort has not yet shown efficacy to contain the school bullying phenomenon across schools in Malaysia. So actually, Dr. Goh Chi Leong, a psychologist who expertise on bullying in Malaysia, stated that the changes of the culture towards bullying is the most effective strategy actually to combat bullying, but it has yet to be successfully implemented in schools yet, okay? So does bullying have any long-lasting impact towards the victims? So school bullying is a serious situation as it does not only have immediate adversity towards the victim, but abundance of empirical studies have proven its serious long-lasting effect up to adulthood. Plus, it is alarming when a direct comparison of bullying and maltreatment of childhood, being bullied was found to have more adverse effect on young adults' mental health alongside a reduction of general psychosocial functioning in the future. So the seriousness of school bullying has been discussed to the point that the severity of post-traumatic stress symptom is evident in the victims and have been showing to resemble those of domestic violence and sexual assault victims. The grave lasting effects on victims also concern Malaysia authorities as they acknowledge the issue on hand on this. So I think it is known of the usual effect of school bullying. So, the usual school bullying victims have reported various forms of psychological, physical, emotional, and social suffering. In the interest of time, I want to pull everyone's attention to a lesser known topic, which is the effect of school bullying on adulthood. So not only school bullying can increase the risk of depression, anxiety, and suicide during the schooling period, but the impact can sustain for longer periods, even if the bullying has actually stopped. Research discovered that bullied victims had an increased risk of depression at age 45 and worse level of life satisfaction at the age of 50. So this finding indicates that bullying-related mental health conditions are more likely to become chronic disorders that are difficult to undo later in life. Not only that, in early adulthood, bullying has been associated to an increased likelihood of getting dismissed from a job, leaving numerous jobs, poor social functioning, living in poverty, and bad financial management, and the list goes on beyond this actually. So although there is no doubt that significant progress has been made in combating school bullying in terms of prevention programs, however, it was noted that the overall efficacy of prevention initiatives are still modest, and only about 25% bullying reduction on average suggested that complete dependence on anti-bullying programs to eradicate school bullying is a bit unrealistic. So we have to do more than that. Reviewing the long-term effect of school bullying, it is clear that a specific intervention for the survivors is needed. However, in order to do so, understanding the process of overcoming the school bullying experience is important first. So that's where my research came in. So just a short sharing of my undergraduate research results actually. This is the common process of young adults went through in order to overcome the traumatic experience. So the first turning point is basically the ending point of the bullying. And after effect refers to the effects that the participant would develop once they were not bullied anymore. Some of them were listed in previous slide. Generally, there were two common post-effects, which are mental health repercussion or a negative change in behavior or personality. Next, the catalyst actually, quite an important one that I will elaborate further later. So in general, a catalyst in chemistry, usually it is defined as an agent that provokes or speeds significant change or action. But in this case, the catalysts are the people actually or things that trigger the victim's cognitive reappraisal, which is the next theme. So this catalyst played a pivotal role in provoking a desire or motivation within the participants to move forward with their lives and put the bad memories behind them. So the cognitive reappraisal is where individuals' mental processes involved in reflection, comprehension, and reinterpretation of the meaning of the whole bullying experience to reach the next stage, which is an important one as well, which is the realization of control. So this theme also can be seen as the vital point of my research. At this point, the victims have come to a realization that they are unable to control either the behavior or thoughts of other people, but only their own. They come to an acceptance where their traumatic experience with their bullies was never their fault. So not holding grudge towards their bully, and that by moving forward will actually be the best chance for them to change themselves. There are two important elements for this process, which I will also discuss later on. Let me just finish this process first. So adaptive coping is when participants take a healthier, newer, and effective strategies to deal with adversity moving forward. And the final stage where each participant has overcome the experience and turned out happier and healthier. So how do you actually differentiate those who overcome it positively with those who don't? So basically, fully overcoming it is when a person reaches a point where they see those years of being bullied as life lessons rather than life tragedies. In the end, there was no hostility or anger towards their bullies or the overall experience when they shared or even thought about it. The acceptance of what had happened and moving forward with their life should be present as well. So I did want to touch a bit on the importance of catalysts before we move on to the realization of control. So, but being mindful of time, I will just summarize them. The presence of catalysts speeds up their cognitive process in reaching realization of control, and why they need this external. So the big question is why people need external catalysts to do so, to help them. So in short and sweet manners, so number one, a person who went through bullying will develop a high rejection sensitivity and inferiority and are less successful in regulation emotional response. And also at a younger age, people are not fully capable cognitively to reappraise their situation on their own to reach the realization of control stage. Hence why external help and resources are vital at this point. So just touching briefly on that, this is the important part that I just want to highlight today. So basically, realization of control, as I stated previously, the two important elements in this theme are the concept of control and forgiveness. Various past studies had found heightened perception of control association with less distress among bullying victims and may be a protective factor. So there's two parts of it. One, the victim needs to realize and accept that they have no control of other people's behavior in the past. And also, in the past, and therefore accept that they were not to blame for what others did to them. And another part is that they have to realize they do have control over their present and themselves. And basically, the only obstacle that's stopping them from getting better is their willingness to take the first step. So the next element is forgiveness, also correlating with one's control. So how is that so? When individuals use forgiveness to help regulate their emotion, they can also receive an added benefit. By regulating your emotions through forgiveness, you exercise control over your own emotion, and it means you actually have control over how you act towards your surrounding. And all of this boosts a person's sense of agency and control. And it all started with how you want to feel towards your past bully, and it is something a person can control. So there's some of scientific term about it, but you can ask further a bit later on. So there are two key takeaway from me today is that one, bullying can and does have long negative side effect towards a person. And now we know we can be mindful of the people around us, and because we know they can't get better on their own, you can actually be the catalyst yourself towards your surrounding. And two, we can't control what goes on outside, but we can control what goes on inside. So thank you very much. I open the floor to any questions, yeah?
Thank you, Ms. Agus. So back to our panelists, if you have any questions for our presenter. One question.
Okay, one question. Thank you very much, Ms. Agus. And my question is, if you are to make, recommendations or maybe advocacy for the policymaker, what would you make?
Sorry, can you repeat the part?
If you were to make a policy recommendation on this bullying problem, what would it be?
Okay, so my research implication actually, just to highlight it, is more for, I guess, awareness. And another part is a new framework or element that mental health provider and also even any healthcare provider to be aware of. Actually, then we know that the element of control is something that we should boost with people whenever we talk about bullying. So that is, if I were to recommend one thing, is to add the element of control and to boost them in any anti-bullying program so that people can overcome it earlier rather than this long-lasting adversity drag on until your old age. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms. Agus, for your presentation, and thank you for the question from the panelists. With that, we conclude the oral presentation from our three presenters. Thank you once again to Dr. Joash and Dr. Kasim Suk. And thank you to Dr. Lin and Dr. Amanda for your insightful contributions to our symposium earlier, as well as the oral presentation. I'd like to pass the floor back to our MCs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our moderator, Kishan, as well as all of our panelists involved today. Sorry, unfortunately, we'll be taking a short 5 minutes break as we need the time to actually go through the sessions today for our award ceremony. We'll just break for a short 5 minutes break and comments after. Thank you. Sorry, can we invite everyone outside back into our Senate room? If there's anyone else outside, can we invite you all back to the Senate room to have a seat? We're about to begin shortly. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone back into the Senate room, as well as those tuning in online. Welcome back. We have now reached to the most anticipated part of the event, our announcement for the winners for both the oral as well as the poster presentations. We'll start off with our first segment, the entrepreneurship segment. With this, we actually like to call Dr. Ao Sung Wai, our president of the IMU Alumni Association, to actually present the prizes for our winners. Dr. Ao. For the entrepreneurship oral presentation, in runner-up position, Dr. Crystal Lau Ying Ching La France, with the title of Medicine Isn't for Everyone, How to Quit by Freelancing or as a Small Business. Unfortunately, Dr. Crystal is not here, but congratulations, Dr. Crystal. For the first place, Dr. Cedric Lee Jia Hong, with his title of Revival Chiropractic. Congratulations, Dr. Cedric.
Thank you, Dr. Ao. Next, we would like to call upon Puan Noraida Yusuf, the Registrar of IMU, to present the prizes for the Public, Community and Engagement segment. Firstly, for the oral presentation segment, the second runner-up goes to Ms. Polly Yap Su Chi with a title, Mining the from biomarkers to personalized medicine. Congratulations. And in second place, we'd like to call upon Dr. Liu Kong Fui with his title, A Novel and Sustainable Approach to Tackling Global Metabolic Epidemic. Unfortunately, he's not here today, so we'll proceed next. But anyway, congratulations, Dr. Liu. And our winner for this segment would be Mr. Chong Yi Chow with his title, Be Blessed to Respond, a qualitative approach to understand post-traumatic growth among COVID-19 survivors in Malaysia. Next, hold on, Puan Noraida, so sorry, just hold on for one segment, just in case the poster winners are here. But we'll just announce anyway. In second runner-up position for the poster category, Tang Zhen Ling with his title of A Qualitative Study on the Relationship Among Social Appearance of Anxiety, Self-Objectification, and Perceived Social Support among Malaysian young adults. Congratulations. Otherwise, in the runner-up category, Sharina Shaira with her title, Earliest Experience of Hair Pulling and Discovery of its Name Among Malaysian Individuals with Trichotillomania Symptoms. Congratulations. And the winner for the poster category falls to Hazika Pakirgani with her topic, The Experiences of Couples Dating Outside of Their Faith. Congratulations.
Thank you, Puan Noraida. We would now like to call Professor Dr. Vishna Devi Nadaraja, our Pro Vice Chancellor, to present the prizes for our next category and final category, which we went through today, the Teaching and Learning segment. We will start off with the oral presentation winners. For second runner-up, Dr. Kasim Suk Sotamur with his title of From Disaster Medical Team to COVID-19 Field Hospital Operator. Congratulations, Doctor. In run-up position, Ms. Agus Elishan Nadia with the title of The Experience of Overcoming School Bullying Among Young Adults in Malaysia. Congratulations. And for the winner for this category, Dr. Joash Tan, with his title of The Value of Combined Qualitative and Quantitative Survey, a survey of workplace building and struggles among the health officers in the tertiary hospitals. Congratulations, Dr. Joash. Hold on, Prof. Vishnu. We'll just also present regarding, we run through regarding the poster presentation category as well, in case the winners are here today. For the poster category, it is actually a tied second place, a tied runner-up position, with two actually tying in this position. Firstly, Dr. Siva Kumar Arunachalam, with his title of Reimagining Collaboration with Industry Impact on Dental Education and Training. Congratulations, Dr. Siva. Dental postgraduate student.
enjoy runner-up position? Ms. Clara Rinaldi, does joining clubs reduce stress in university students? A quality survey in private universities. Ms. Clara is not here with us today, but congratulations, Ms. Clara. And finally, for the first place, Lao Chao Ching, with his title of Helicopter Parenting, Fear of Negative Evaluation and Resilience Among Malaysian University Students. Well, unfortunately, he's not here as well, but congratulations. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Vishna. However, we would like to invite Prof. Vishna to just give a few closing remarks regarding the alumni conference. Thank you.
All right. So I feel a bit like already in the party mood for the homecoming because I have to stay after that, right? So really, thanks very much to everyone who has come, participated in person. I know many came yesterday, and thanks for being here today, and stay on for the event today, and those who join online. But I think firstly must thank the organizing committee from Alumni Relations Office, and also the alumni committee, Ao, Sandeep, and Yikai, and the rest of the team, the committee, for putting this conference together. And it's so nice, honestly, when they told me about the conference and the numbers, because I think I'm your teacher, I'll be very frank, right? I was a bit surprised, small number. But I tell you, small with the big bite, lah. Honestly, I really enjoyed myself sitting through the sessions yesterday, and even today I caught the last bit. So proud of all of you, the kind of work you all are doing, and the superstars that we are having in campus now. Honestly, all of you all are doing a great job. And Shamala, with the work that she's doing with, I think, the psychology team. Honestly, psychology students, you guys, I don't teach you all, but I wish I taught you all. Really good research work on issues that I try to bring up, here in campus. I've seen students go through issues with your gender, bullying, harassment, and I've had students in my room crying about it. And the hesitancy of sometimes us faculty wanting to talk about it, honestly, right? You know that in your workplace. So to see you guys making those things come to light, really fantastic work. And all of you all in service, and also those who have brave to take other pathways in life. So not just be a hospital base or just, be in clinical service, but doing service in other ways. So all of you make us very proud. So please keep on engaging with IMU. I think this is the first conference. It was small, but with a big bite. I feel, and suggestion, you guys should do it every year. You can only grow, and you can only do better. And we'll give whatever support we can from the university. And the pride will be for us to see this be such a big conference that you guys actually are making an impact, publishing, and nothing makes the university happier. You are the future of the university. You are the university. You realize that, right? I'm only an employee here. I don't have a degree from IMU. But all of you have a degree from IMU. And how well you do will reflect on us. So we are here behind you all the way. And as I said yesterday, I think when Raymond put on Facebook, take care of each other and lift each other up. You must do that. All right. So thanks so much for being here. Well done to the team. And let's enjoy ourselves after this. All right? Okay.
Thank you once again, Prof. Dr. Vishna. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it a round of applause again for all our moderators, panelists, and participants for today. We'd like to express our gratitude for everyone here today, and also not forgetting for those joining in online. Thank you for making this conference a memorable event. We have reached the end of our alumni conference for today, for these 2 days. Please enjoy a lunch that's been prepared for you outside, just in the open area in level 2. But before that, can we just get you all to actually gather at the entrance for a small photo sessions before we proceed with lunch. Also, there's a short housekeeping reminder for all the alumni here. We look forward to actually seeing you later at our homecoming dinner. Registration will begin at 3 p.m. So hopefully we'll see you there tonight. Thank you. Can everyone proceed outside for a short photo session?